Just overwhelmed with all of you that are here. Barb and I literally had this idea over lunch at P.F. Chang's 8 weeks ago, and here you are. This is just incredible. I feel like a very lucky sandwich in between Barb and Lynn St. James. I'm not quite sure why I'm here, really, but anyway. I'm here today to talk to you about my journey, my life story. And I was putting together sort of what parts of it I wanted to share with you today, and I realized that my story is somewhere between boring and life-altering. You know, I've never eaten out of a trash can or lived in my car or won $1 million and lost it, you know, and most of those things that inspire people naturally. But I did realize that something that my story is very relatable. I think we're all here today because we can all relate. We all have a lot of the same issues and problems and joys and beliefs and misconceptions going on in our life. And also I see it every day in the clients that come to us at Caskey for training and some of the things they struggle with, things like being stuck, you know, stuck in a position, stuck in a job, stuck at an income level. Maybe it's feeling out of control. I know nobody in this room ever feels out of control, right? Whether it's in your life or your job or, you know, if it's one, it's usually the other and it all runs together. Probably the biggest thing that I see every day and that appears for me in my life is fear. Fear of failure, fear of success. And I think probably the biggest fear is that at some point you're just not going to matter. Has anybody ever felt like maybe I just don't matter? And that is a horrible fear to have. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit today about my journey, and I'm putting it down as a series of realizations. And realizations to me are sort of flashes of life-altering activity that happen, epiphanies, if you will. And they can appear in a lot of different ways. For me, sometimes it's a very peaceful sort of feeling all the way down to your toes where everything kind of lines up and everything's right. We've all had those. Those are the good ones. Then there's those realizations that are sort of nauseating, where you hyperventilate and you get the ugly cry where your face is all crunched up and you blotch. You know, it's not pretty. Everybody defines it differently in their life. Those just happen to be a couple ways that my realizations come up for me. So I had a lot of realizations over the last 8 years or so, and I put it at 8 years, and you'll realize why when I talked about my first one. I'm sure I've had many more realizations than that. And one of the joys of getting older, I think, is that you actually recognize when you're having a realization. There's lots of great things about getting older for all you young pups in the room. Hot flashes and dry skin, not part of it, but for the most part, there's some good stuff. But it really is good to sort of be very centered. And I find the older I get, the more present I am in my life, the more aware I am of just how great life really is. And today, this room, looking out at all of you, is a great example of that. So thank you again for being here. My first realization happened about 7.5 years ago. My husband and I were on a houseboat trip. This isn't pornographic. It's going to start out like it is, but it's not. And when we had met, I was married before. He had never been married. We kind of decided that we didn't want children. We had decided, not kind of. We were both just happy career people, loved kids, just didn't want to mess with it. Just thought, you know, why would people go to so much trouble for little people? I feel like guilty saying that now. We were on a houseboat trip with all of our friends that had kids, telling stories about how great their kids were, and all of them looking at us going, you guys you'd be great parents. And we're like, yeah, can I have another beer? And we ended up alone on the houseboat deck, just the two of us with beers, talking, and my husband looked at me and he said, why don't we want to have a baby? And I said, I really can't remember why. All those reasons that we thought we had kind of seem unimportant. And when you're happy in a marriage and your life's kind of going the right way, you really decide that you want to make it about more than just you. You want to give that to someone else. You want to share that with somebody else. So 6 years ago, we had a son whose name is Jack. And for those of you that have children, you'll get this. For those of you that don't, I hope you have the opportunity to do it someday if you choose to. But people tell you can't prepare for it. They can't explain what it is, what it's like, and nothing could be more true. I had more friends say to me, oh, it's going to change your life. And what I realized is that you get a whole new life. You don't recognize your old life, nor do you really want to. It really takes your intent, which is something that we talk about in the work that we do with our clients, from being hey, it's all about me, which sometimes I still take that. I'll take it. People want to give it to me. To really, hey, it's all about this other person and making them a good person and being the best that I can be for them and giving them this great life. So that was my first realization, and everything that's happened since then has been dictated by that little guy with the big green eyes who I love more than life itself. My first Mother's Day, my mom gave me a card that said, "Welcome to motherhood. It's like having your heart walking around outside your body." And nothing could be more true. He breaks my heart every day, sometimes in good ways, sometimes in bad ways. But he's perfect. Of course, I'm not biased or anything. I'm just his mother. Probably my biggest realization happened about, what's it been now? It'll be about 3 years ago. I had been working with Kathy Langham, who a lot of you in this room probably know, at Langham Logistics. She's a wonderful woman. She saw something in me that I obviously hadn't seen. I was in the logistics business, always in the back of the house. Never wanted to be in front of anybody. I know that's hard to believe, I'm such a ham up here now, but anyway. I always worked in operations, dispatching drivers and working in the back of the house and just sort of going about my business, sort of down in the trenches of the logistics world. And in the company I worked for before, I had a lot of dealings with Kathy, and she started asking me, "Have you ever thought about being in sales?" And when you're not a salesperson, you don't really know what that means. But to me, it meant, hey, and golf. And I thought, no. You're almost kind of offended, like, no, I don't want to do that, sort of. But she was very persistent and very tenacious. And she just kept asking me, so I really want you to try to understand what we're trying to build here. Her company was very young at the time. And it was basically all the Langhams and like 2 extra people. And so one day I went in. I had been at my job that I was at for 7 years, loved it, had been very happy there. Kathy invited me in just to talk. If you ever meet her and she invites you in just to talk, don't trust it. I left 2 hours later and quit my job and started work in business development with Kathy, blissfully ignorant, had no idea what that was. I mean, really. I had a stack of business card that says I was a salesperson. Whatever. I would literally drive around and look for docks at buildings with trucks. And I'd go in and think, well, they probably have freight because they have a truck and a dock. And I'd walk in and say, "Do you guys have freight? Who decides who gets it?" And I would talk to people. Well, that was fun for about 2 months, and then I was miserable. I thought, oh my God, what have I gotten myself into? So luckily for me, Kathy's a big believer in continuous growth and improvement and investing in her people. And she enrolled us in Caskey Training. And we were with Caskey Training for 8 years, every other Friday, for 2 hours in the morning, and that's when I had the privilege and opportunity to meet Bill Caskey and Brian Neal, who became really good friends of mine and people that I love and respect, and business mentors. So I was with Kathy for 11 years. I went through the whale hunting training as well, and was doing things from the girl that was walking into businesses saying, "Do you guys have freight?" to landing multi-million-dollar deals with me against 17 people in a room. Who'da thunk it? But I took everything I learned at Caskey and everything I learned at whale hunting and really started to have a blast at what I was doing. And what both of the trainings allowed me to do was just be who I was. I think I always thought when you went into sales that you had to wear a little suit and be very, which I can't even fake it being that. And it made me realize that there was value in just who I was. And I had natural gifts that people appreciated and wanted to be around, and that was all I needed. I just needed to work those and get better at that. So I had been at Langham for 11 years and had sort of gotten very comfortable at the place where everybody thinks they want to get. I show up every day. I say what I say. People buy stuff. I make a good living. Have a lot of flexibility. What could be better than that? Well, apparently for me that's not enough because I got very uncomfortable being so comfortable. And it took me a long time to sort of put my finger on what it was. For one, I was turning 41. And I thought, oh my God, this is midlife crisis. This sucks. Is this what this feels like? I was having lunch with Bill Caskey one day, and he said, "What is wrong with you?" Because I am not a gray person. I'm pretty black and white. When I get in a funk, I usually know what it is, and I usually choose to stay there as long as I want, and then I get out of it. And I had been kind of gray. I could not figure out. I was just sort of, how are things? Fine. How's life? Fine. It's fine. Everything was fine. I was just sort of coasting. And Bill knew me well enough, and he's like, "What is going on with you?" So we had a very in-depth conversation, and he sort of helped me with the realization that you need to re-engage your brain. You need to do something. Secretly, going through Caskey Training, I had always thought to myself, God, that would be the coolest job. Just knowing what they did for me, my income, the joy that I had, and just being able to do that with people every day. Who would want to do that? What a great gig, But I never said it out loud because, why would I? And he looked at me and said, I'll never forget it, Daddy Jack's over a French dip. I will never forget it. Have you ever thought about coming to work with us? No. Such a liar. No, I had not. Of course not. Why would I? And he's like, you should really think about it. So I start sweating immediately and try to, cool. I get out in my car. I call my husband. I'm like, you are not going to believe what just happened. Bill Caskey just offered me a job. And my husband, who I love, who loves me back, well, you're going to do it, aren't you? And I said, well, here's the catch. It's straight commission, and I have no clients. And we have a son who's going to be in college. We have a house payment, 2 car payments, American life. And I was making a very comfortable 6 figures where I was. So I said, well, I can't do that. He's like, what are you talking about? Of course you can do that. My husband, who has never studied sales training, is the complete believer in abundance, which is one of the things that we teach at Caskey, that the world is an abundant place. It's a leap of faith, but the universe will give you what you need. I think today is a great example of that. So it took me a year. I'm not very bright, apparently, or quick. But I talked to Bill probably 100 times, who was very patient with me and bought me lots of coffee at Starbucks. And Brian, his business partner, who we also work with, and my husband, and finally made the decision to take a leap of faith. Bill is so wonderful. We had coffee one morning, and he said, I don't know how to tell you this, but we've really talked this out. I mean, literally, we had met like 20 times. It's like, I can't give you what you need. It has to come from inside you to pull the trigger. And I was actually leaving for Chicago that day to meet my friend Margaret Shepard, who I worked with at Langham, for a convention in Chicago for women-owned businesses, diverse business. And for the first time ever, my son Jack cried when I dropped him off at school, and I cried, which he's so okay with me not being around. Sadly, you want him to be independent, and then it's like, wait, don't you need me? But I got in my car and proceeded to buy a Big Mac and 2 supersized orders of fries, and cried and ate my way to Chicago until I got to Margaret. And I walked in the room at the Knickerbocker that we were sharing, and she had the whole plan for the conference on the floor with a highlighter. She was so excited and passionate about who she was going to meet and what she was going to do and all these plans. And I thought, I'm done. I don't want to be here. No offense against Margaret. She's a wonderful person. I don't want to be here. I don't want to do this. There's something else out there for me. And then I started, I got out in the hall and I called my husband. I said, I'm doing it. I'm giving my notice. I'm going to go work at Caskey. He's like, thank God. I wondered how many more years we could go through, this whole back and forth thing. And then I spent the rest of the time there with Margaret, who I couldn't share this with, which killed me. I don't keep a lot to myself. You've probably realized that. I thought, what I've been excited about the last couple of years at Langham is all these new, incredibly bright people that I get to mentor and coach, not manage. I didn't want anything to do with that. But help them grow, help them learn the ropes, help them know what it's all about. That's what really juiced me, and that's what I get the opportunity to do every day at Caskey. So I'm really a lucky girl. So that's realization number 2. Leave a really successful career to go do something you have no idea what you're doing. It's a great idea. So I was really kind of, again, blissfully ignorant. I'm a very optimistic person. I like to have fun. I really do believe in the whole abundance thing, that if you take the leap of faith and you have your intent in the right place, the universe will meet you where you need it to. So we'll call it realization number 2.5. I was in the shower one morning about 6 months into my career at Caskey, and somewhere between shampoo and conditioner, I had a major anxiety attack. And my abundance literally was swirling down the drain. I was freaking out. I'm like, oh my God, what have I done? I have no income. I have no clients. What am I doing? Oh, and I didn't mention that a week after taking my job at Caskey, my husband got laid off. So after getting drunk, we figured that out. Everything was fine. But I was in the shower that morning, and I thought, what have I done? I can't do this. I can't live like this, not knowing what's going to happen. And I just started freaking out. So I don't know about you guys, but when I get like that, I have 2 very good friends, Debbie Rabb, who some of you have met this morning, and Kelly Smith, and they both serve 2 unique purposes in my life. Kelly is my champion. I could run over her dog, and she'd compliment me on how great I did it. It's one of those people. And then there's Debbie, and I say all of this about Debbie with pure affection because I love her a lot. She's my kick-in-the-ass kind of friend. So I called her right out of the shower. I'm like, Debbie, I can't do this, blah, 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 puking all over her, basically. She said, then quit. Go get a regular job. Well, no, I don't want to do that. She's like, you need to decide. Draw your line in the sand. Do you love what you're doing enough? Do you trust yourself enough to do it? And in that moment, I realized this is my heart. This is what I love to do. This is what juices me. This is what makes me a good mother, a good friend, a good wife, a good, better everything. So that was, from that moment on, when I stopped worrying about it, things have just started clicking. Things like today. I mean, really, I can't tell you enough about today and how awesome this is for Barb and I. Realization number 3 really is about today. It's the whole idea of abundance and having your intent about something other than you. And Barb and I literally met over a plate of almond chicken and brown rice at P.F. Chang's probably 9 weeks ago, maybe 10 weeks ago. And we both just looked at each other and said, I really want to do something cool for women. Celebrate women, bring all these great women that we know together, and the men that support them, because there's not enough of them, we need more. And just really do something. We have no idea what it's going to be. Well, you're here. This is what it is. And I couldn't be more proud to be included with Barb, who's just one of the most gracious, classy women I have ever met. So today is really about all the things that have been threaded throughout my life that I now get to teach. And that's the whole idea of abundance and your intention being about something bigger than you. So thank you all again for being here today. In the program, there's a little ad for theultimatesaleschick.com. It's a podcast that's just me rambling, much like today. So if you got something out of this, you'll enjoy that. Bill Caskey is also here in the back of the room, right at my focal point. And he's selling his book, Same Game, New Rules, which is sort of the Bible of everything that we teach, if you'd be interested in that. So thank you again.